One more time.
I do not fight for myself. I never have. Together, we are.
So it looks like you can put up a shield.
This is not
like at them.
my victory. It is ours.
See?
You are finished. Come, let us punish them.
This looks so sick because obviously there's two forms to Ramattra.
You were warned. Fight with me. Fight until you fall. I will break before I yield.
That looks sick.
They will be annihilated.
And it does look like that, doesn't it, right? That, like, just part of a map?
This is not cruelty. This is justice.
I love that. I love that whole, like, sequence right there. That looks sick. Like, looking at that hero in general, I love that there's going to be two different, almost like play styles to the hero, but on top of that, it looks like there's a shield that you can just put in front of people, right? Like, that's what it looks like. It looks like you just have a shield. But now, did I see that there was damage through the Winston bubble on the Winston? It looked like that, right? Like, it looked like they were showing that you could do damage through the bubble. That, I think, and Rhine. So it's like, it almost seems like even though there is a shield there, you can also have like a counterplay to that. But from what I can see in the video there, like the shield that they put up in front of the Cassidy there looks like it's almost like a shield you like can like put in a location and it'll be in that location. That looks, I don't know, like the whole playstyle looks sick. Like the whole playstyle there just looked awesome. Oh, show you in the video? Yeah, it's not a bad idea actually. Let me find that part in the video. Let me see if I can quickly open up like the actual video where it doesn't have the other part to it. 1 second. So like right here. Watch. See? It looks like it's an ability that you raise up. Like see this right here? So that's a shield, right? So it's like a shield that stays in place. Yeah, kind of like you, yeah. See? Yep. Which can clearly block that. That's really cool. That's like really cool.
You are finished.
There's something else I wanted to see. And this looks like, I'm curious to, it looks like it might pull the, like it seems like it brings Echo down over there, right? Like, is that the whole premise behind that? Yeah.
Let us punish them.
And this is the, I think it's called Nemesis form they've talked about, right? That looks sick. That's what's to me is going to be really cool about like this tank is it's just that ability to have two different play styles that you can play during it. Like to see that. Then that would just be a damage reduction, I imagine.
You were warned.
Watch, I'll show you in a second what I mean about the shields.
Fight until you fall. I will break before I yield.
Okay, so I saw this in the trailer. I want to see this right here. That it looks like the ultimate. It looks like it's like chained into everybody. Do you see? See this? It's like chained to everybody. So like you can see that like there's a Farah here, there's a Rhine, a Mercy, like Soldier. You can see all that. Like it looks like it changes everybody. See? You said it's like the Moira right click, but in an ultimate. There you go. They're like, wait, we heard how much you like the Moira damage, the Moira right click. Here's an ultimate of it. Yeah, it looks like it's a huge ultimate though. That radius.
They will be annihilated.
Yep. So I think that right there, and I mentioned earlier with the Winston bubble too, it looks like you can damage to the shields. Like, I think the whole idea behind this is to showcase that you can damage behind the shield, right? Not that it's breaking Ryan's shield, but it's actually doing damage behind the Ryan shield. Watch. See? I think that's the whole premise behind that. Is what it seems like. See?
Annihilated.
Yep. Yeah, I've noticed that too, by the way. The background here seems very interesting, huh? So that has to be going along with like a new map. Yep.
This is not cruelty. This is justice.
There's just something about this hero that, and I think they had mentioned and talked about it a little bit. So there's something they talked about when they showed off a little bit of Ramattra during, like, I think it was at OWL. Like, they were saying how, like, this is a very different character than they normally had, and how there's a lot that's going to kind of change with what they do in Overwatch. So this hero in general just seems really cool. I love the voice lines. I love the different abilities you can use. I don't know what it is. I'm excited to play Ramattra. Oh, that, yeah, I imagine this is a highlight intro. This is probably a highlight intro right here.
This is not cruelty. This is justice.
Like, the music, the voice lines, like the way that they can hype up this character is so sick. I just don't... I'm excited. I love what we're seeing, and I can't wait to play in, like, what is it going to be, 10 days till Ramattra's out? Like, I cannot wait. You bet we're going to be playing some Ramattra. Speaking of that, Chad, do you think we should do about a week into the season, should we do a Ramattra bingo card? What do you think? Do we do it? We have to figure out, like, what the abilities are, what are some things that Ramattra has, but I think it'd be really fun, especially with getting some Ramattra practicing, to be able to do a bingo card to go with it, because I know people really enjoy the bingo card, so these are the Ramattra abilities that they just posted on the Overwatch Twitter. Here it is. So, obviously, there's Ramattra right here. We have Void. Actually, can I zoom in on this? Is that possible? Oh, yeah, look at that. Is that good? How about that? That's good. All right, here we go. So they have the Void Accelerator, which fires a stream of projectiles in a fixed pattern. Okay, so that's going to be pretty cool. Like, basically what you're doing at that point is you are... It's kind of like just in a... like I said, a fixed pattern. So that seems cool. And you create a barrier at the targeted location. So you have the Void Accelerator as well as the barrier. Oh, and then you have Nemesis form. Okay, this sounds cool. Then you have Nemesis form, which is the other form that we saw, which I kind of talked about how there's going to be two different playstyles with Ramattra. Nemesis form punches forward, creating a wave of energy with every swing. So that's going to be really cool. So you can do a bunch of, like, basically damage while punching forward. So even if you're at range, it sounds like, you can do damage, which is what we saw against Reinhardt's shield, right? Where we were seeing the Rein. That's really, really cool. And then significantly reduces damage taken from the front and reduces movement speed. So that would be the other ability where we saw him kind of like putting like his like hands in front of his face there. Basically, that reduces damage taken from the front and reduces movement speed. So we've seen that with some playstyles before. And then we have the ultimate. Oh, wait. It actually says here, too. Nemesis form transforms into Nemesis form, changing your attacks and gaining bonus armor. So when you do go into Nemesis form, it actually gives you different attacks, and then you gain bonus armor. So you get a little bit of HP on that. And then there's Ravenous Vortex. That's what we saw. Remember that thing we saw where it was like kind of like spinning in circles? So Ravenous Vortex fires a nano ball, which explodes when it hits the ground, spreading a damaging field. Affected enemies are also slowed and pulled downward. So yeah, that's what we saw. You notice how when Echo went into the air and then Echo went down back to the ground? With Ravenous Vortex, you can actually pull Echo down. Or like heroes like that, or like somebody trying to go up high ground. You can actually pull them down with that and also slow them too. So it kind of allows for a little bit of a slow. And then yes, it also has a damaging field. So it has damage, it can slow, and it can actually pull people down too. And then the ultimate, which is what we saw it kind of connected to everybody, is called Annihilation. Create a spreading swarm of nanobots that creep out in front of you, dealing damage and reducing enemy damage dealt by 50%. So not only do you have an ultimate that deals damage, it will then reduce damage dealt by 50%. So you can actually run at them, be aggressive with that ultimate, and so can your teammates, because it reduces damage. Reduce an enemy damage dealt by 50%. It sounds like you can be really aggressive with Ramattra. It's really cool because it's like you have two play styles, right? You have the play style from a range where you have your shield and you have your ability to kind of like do poke damage at range. And then when you want to be aggressive and go in with your team, you can then use Nemesis form to play aggressive. And you have these two different play styles. That's really, really cool. That is really cool. As a tank player, I'm excited because like I just can't wait to play. It just, I don't know what it is. It's just the hero, everything they've done with the hero, like the trailers, the voice lines, the whole like just Ramattra in general seems so fun. Like so fun. I cannot wait to try this out. I cannot wait to play Ramattra. Like we are less than 2 weeks away. I think 10 days away if I check correctly. What's today? Yeah, it's 6th and it's on December 6th. So, yep. I'm excited. I cannot wait. That is going to be so awesome. I'm gonna have a ton of fun. As a tank player, I'm gonna have a ton of fun. All right, you ready, chat? We'll start at the top here. Building a revolutionary, an inside look at Ramattra with the hero design team. Ramattra storms the Overwatch 2 roster with a fierce ability kit and Dominaran playstyle. Would you expect anything else from the leader of Null Sector? Truth be told, Ramattra was a technically challenging hero to make. He's very special in the world of Overwatch, both as a playable hero and as a character with a rich story. Ramattra is exceptional, and we're so excited to share him with you. He is always intended to be a tank because we knew we wanted him to be able to transform into his big, imposing tank. We call this his Nemesis form, but before we get into that, let's walk through his concept and kit with the members of the Overwatch 2 hero design team, Josh No and Tess Lehman. Josh is the lead balance designer, and Tess is the associate game designer. Ramattra is the first tempo tank we've added to Overwatch 2, which means he can change forms moment to moment. The base form for Ramattra is his Omnic form. And I just talked about that a little bit where I'm excited about the different playstyles. And I think that's a really good way to describe the type of tank that Ramattra is, a tempo tank, right? Where you can kind of shift, almost like shift gears on how you play. So sometimes you can play a little bit more of a defensive kind of poke damage comp, use your shield to protect. Then you have the other form where you can change that tempo, be aggressive. And I really like the idea of that for a tank, because it allows you to have multiple play styles. It's like, okay, they're playing this comp. Well, I'm on Ramattra. The shield's going to be good against that high noon, but once they use high noon, I can then... So once they use that high noon, right, I can then switch forms and then go into Nemesis form and make a play. You said ads? Okay, well, wait a second. Let's continue on. Yeah, we waited, chat. All right, so on to the next part now. Omnic form. When you first select Ramattra, Omnic form is where you're going to start. His weapon in this form is his Void Accelerator, a massive staff that comes with its own set of primary and secondary fires. We can actually see the screenshot here, which, once again, Ramattra just looks sick. That staff looks sick. Oh, absolutely love that. That is so awesome. I cannot wait. Void Accelerator's primary fires... oh, wait, sorry. Let me reread that. Void Accelerator's primary Void Accelerator's primary fires out a stream of fast-moving nanites. Says no. The nanite particle have a travel speed that requires you to lead your targets, but there's no damage fall off. So it sounds like you have a bit of a projectile, which I do talk about that, but it has no damage fall off, and you have to basically lead. So to give you an idea, with projectile and like hit scan is projectile you need to lead with, like heroes like, you know, Hanzo, Sojourn's left click, etc. Like that's leading with projectile. Mei's right click. So Sigma has projectile. So the projectile, basically you lead your shot, so you kind of predict where they're going. Obviously they're standing still, you aim at them with it, but that's what they're saying, that this gives Ramattra a longer range option, but there's an advantage to using this weapon close range. So Layman elaborates on this point. If you're close to enemies and put your staff right in their face, you're going to do quite a bit of damage, especially if you're hitting crits. Wait a second. This has critical damage? Because I was thinking like the left click would just be, it does damage kind of like Sigma does, where you can't have any of that crit damage. But apparently it has critical damage. So if you aim, like, obviously, you just like, go for headshots, you're going to have critical damage. And it has no fall off. So that makes the playstyle even, I guess, more exciting, because now you're able to actually go for those long range headshots or get close range and get value out of that, which I think is really cool. The secondary ability is Void Barrier, a temporary, high health barrier that Ramattra can place in a targeted location. When you activate the barrier, you'll see a line on the floor to confirm where you want to place the barrier in its range, which create a few different playstyles, says Layman. Use it defensively to protect teammates and cut off enemies, or use it offensively to create space and close the gap between you and the other team. And this goes again to the playstyle. One thing I do want to test here, and I'm sure they might talk about it later in the article, is if I use that shield and then switch into Nemesis form, can I do that? So can I use the shield to then create that space for Nemesis form and then go into Nemesis form and have that shield still up? I'm actually very curious to see if that's a thing, and we'll probably test that whenever we can, right? I would love to be able to see that. Because if you can do that, that opens up the playstyle. But it might be in the article even more, so we'll see. Everything about this form enables you to close the gap between enemies. Oh. Well, maybe I should have read the next paragraph, because that would have been a good idea. Everything about this form enables you to close the gap between enemies. Says no, you can use this form tactically to move in on enemies and activate his Nemesis form when he gains 2 new abilities, Pummel and Block. Well, to answer that question, yes, you can. Wow. Maybe if I read a little bit further on that one, but yes, so you can do that. So that playstyle allows you to do that. Okay. Nemesis form. Ramattra's Nemesis form changes both his appearance and weapon. He becomes a giant protector or threat, dependent on your perspective. And this goes back again to what I was saying. The different playstyles you can have is really, really cool. He bulks up with extra armor, and he forms 2 extra arms, which serve as his weapons in Nemesis form. So this is what Ramattra looks like in Nemesis form. So as you can see, comparing, this is the Omnic form you start in as Ramattra. So when you're playing Ramattra without being a Nemesis form, and then this is Nemesis form. So it's like completely 2 different forms. That seems awesome. Pummel launches a short-range power wave with each swing, says Layman. It's also a piercing attack. So if there's enemies stacked within range, they all get hit. It's really nice for playing around things like Reinhardt's Shield, Diva's Defense Matrix, or Winston Bubble. Well, there goes that answer. Can you use Defense Matrix against it? No, you can't. So it has piercing damage, which means that you can, against any of those tanks or against Defense Matrix, you can use that ability and it will not be eaten. I imagine that goes the same for like Sigma and Orisa's Eat. Obviously, we can test that, but I imagine it would work the same way. It's kind of difficult to dance in and out of a bubble when Pummel goes straight through it regardless. Yeah, so they want to get a little... What they're trying to do is make it so there's a counter to that play style of like, well, we're just going to put a bubble down and then we're going to go kind of around the bubble and you have to break that bubble first. They want to have the opportunity for there to be comps where you don't need to rely on bubbles being broken or shields being broken, because sometimes you'll have comps that don't have enough shield break damage, or teammates that don't want to break the shield because they're like, you know what, you'll break the shield. I'm going to go wait for you to break the shield and do something else. You ever make that call out where you're like, break shield, break the bubble, and the bubble stays there the whole time? This gets rid of that a little bit. For block, Ramattra throws his big tank arms in front of his face, reducing damage from the front. It's also effective at reducing the damage of Hanzo's dragons and Torb's molten core, despite them surrounding him, explains Layman. Block slows Ramattra's movement speed, and it only applies to damage received from the front, leaving him vulnerable from behind. So it obviously slows Ramattra down, and actually this is one of the first times you get to kind of really see the abilities on the bottom here and how it looks in that form. Basically what it does is you can reduce damage of things like they're saying here, Hanzo's Dragon and Molten Core, but obviously if you are able to get behind them, then you're able to do that damage and get a lot more value against that comp. So there's trade-offs to using the ability. You're slowed, and they can do damage to you from behind, but you can also, clearly block a lot of damage. There's no cooldown on the block, Noah elaborates. You can use it whenever you want by weaving it in and out between your attacks. The trade-off is you can't punch while using it, and it slows you down. So it sounds like you can actually use the block, or not even sounds like, you can use the block all the time. So like, you can put the block up, move forward a little bit, put the block up, move forward a little bit, put the block up. So it allows you to play an aggressive playstyle. And if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like Ramattra has 600 HP in Nemesis form. If I'm seeing this correctly right here in the bottom left, we can actually see that. It looks like 600 HP with a bunch of armor. So I don't know the exact numbers because they don't have it here, but it looks like, looking at that, does it look like it's like 150 armor maybe? It just based off of like looking at that, I don't know the exact numbers. Oh, wait, okay, it's 400 HP, 200 armor. Is that what it is? That would make sense too. If you look right here, you can see that like it's definitely, you have a little bit more HP, and then you also have the armor there. So either way, you're gonna have a lot of armor, which each bar is? Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of armor there. So we'll have to look at that in a bit. But Yeah, armor in Overwatch is really, really strong. To give you an idea, like, sometimes even when they give Reinhardt 25 extra armor, Reinhardt becomes that much stronger. To give you an idea of how strong armor can actually be and how much tankiness it allows, this allows for a lot of tankiness. And armor is really good in Overwatch too. So, Nemesis is an 8-second ability with an 8-second cooldown. So you aren't permanently in this form. You need to time which form you're in carefully because the abilities in one form won't be present in the other. However, there's an ability that Ramattra can utilize regardless of which form he's currently using. So basically, there is a cooldown. So if you use Nemesis, you then have to wait basically 8 seconds to be able to use it again. And obviously, if you use your abilities at certain times, you might come back and you may not have those abilities. You will have those abilities actually. So you have 8 seconds to be able to play aggressive. Then you go back into the other form. And it sounds like basically every 8 seconds, you can switch back between the forms. So like 8 seconds, you're in Omnic form. Then you go into Nemesis form for 8 seconds. Then you have an 8-second cooldown. Then you can go back into it. So it allows for a different play style. Obviously, you're not going to do that on cooldown. I imagine it's going to be more timing your attacks and kind of timing how you would play that. And it would make sense. You don't want to just spam it like, let's go into Nemesis form. Let's have fun. Like, you probably want to time it correctly. And there'll be times where you're doing more of your poke damage. But this allows for, the way I see it is going in the Nemesis form against like Rush comps and Reinhardt comps and going in the Nemesis form against like Sigma. You know how Sigma has that like play style? You can put a shield in front of Sigma and then you can be aggressive for 8 seconds. That makes Sigma have to fall back, or you can make a play off of that, or you can slow them when you go back into the other form, and it allows you to get position. It's a really cool play style. I cannot wait to try it. Okay, Ravenous Vortex. This is from the video that we saw. And it looks like Ramattra does have 450 HP. So Ramattra does have 450 HP right there. And if we look up here, Ramattra has 600 HP. So it looks like Ramattra will have 150 shield, unless it converts some of that over into armor after. But I'm just looking at that right here. Ramattra has 600 HP here in Nemesis form and 450 outside of that. Ravenous Vortex is a ball of nanites that slows, grounds, and damages enemies. This ability is a projectile that bounces off of walls, enemies, and slippery off of enemies and slippery slopes like roofs. It must hit the floor to activate, says Layman. Once activated, it opens up this big area that will slow enemies, pull them to the ground, and deal damage. Which, once again, I'm very curious to see how this plays, but it looks like you can do a lot of really cool stuff, and it could allow for some really cool openings, right? If it slides off, like, roofs and stuff, there's some maps you could probably, like, do, like, a setup where players will set up on a spot, you throw it over the roof, it goes down, and it might be able to land in a spot. So, Ravenous Vortex keeps enemies in Ramatra's sweet spot, where he can deal damage easily in either Nemesis or Omnic form. You can also use this ability defensively to keep people off your teammates or lock down certain areas. Ramattra can use this ability to halt the enemy team from rushing you, says No. Enemies have a super weak jump when they are caught in this ability. Winston goes almost nowhere. Wow. So if you are able to get enemies in that, just to give you an idea, and we'll definitely have to look at this whenever, we play Ramattra, but like, apparently Winston goes almost nowhere when they're inside of that ability. So like, you can prevent a lot of different stuff. So Ramattra has many tools to help him command space. He doesn't finesse his way into team fights. He brute forces his path, using any means necessary to achieve his objectives. His ultimate is no exception. I'm looking forward to this play style. This is going to be so fun. Annihilation is a special ultimate, says Layman. First, Ramattra immediately goes into Nemesis mode, but there's something else going on at the same time. Annihilation is a wide energy swarm that lashes out towards any enemies within range, dealing constant damage. And here's kind of what the ability looks like when you do that right here, you can see. It's similar to Transcendence in the sense it creates a big ring around him. Annihilation has beams that latch onto enemies within range, depleting their health, says Layman. Enemies need to be within the ultimate's range and Ramatra's line of sight, but there's another caveat to this ability. It doesn't end, says Layman. If the beam is attached to an enemy, it pauses their... Wait a second. If the beam is attached to an enemy, it pauses the duration of the ultimate, Layman continues. The ultimate itself is relatively short, but if it is attached to someone, it's not ending. So if you get your ultimate on somebody, it doesn't end until basically there's nobody in your ultimate, it sounds like. Right? So as long as you're able to get within the range of them, This actually makes it sound like if you do have like Lucio on your team, for example, you can probably speed boost that ultimate and keep it going until like the team fight's over, right? While these tethers are attached to enemies, Ramattra has all the benefits and abilities from Nemesis form. He gives enemies 2 options with this ultimate. Either eliminate him or move. Which obviously you can move out of the ultimate, but if Ramattra's playing aggressive, I guess you could disengage with it. It kind of goes both ways in that. Like you can be aggressive with like Lucio, or you can like disengage out. There's going to be ways to do that. Or let's say that Junker Queen's like playable, for example. You can use Junker Queen's ability to get out, stuff like that. But that sounds really cool. And once again, as a tank player, it sounds great. Null Sector meets Overwatch. Ramattra's playstyle is complex and multifaceted, mirroring his history and ideals. Omnic form is highly tactical and gives us a glimpse at Ramattra's ingenious mind. Nemesis form is huge, imposing, and violent, a physical manifestation of his rage. When he unleashes his ultimate annihilation, he roars, "Suffer as I have," through his ability. We see the pain he has experienced in his long war against humanity. It makes you wonder, is there anything he won't do to save his people from extinction? Ramattra is staged to join the lineup of Overwatch 2 heroes starting Season 2 on December 6th. I'm going to be honest with you, chat. Ramattra seems so fun. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I'm just like... I cannot wait. I just like... Everything about this tank to me sounds super exciting. The playstyle, the abilities, the ultimate. Like, having the ability to change playstyles based off of what's happening in-game to me sounds like such a fun tank. And it sounds like it's a very tempo-based tank, like what they said. And it kind of goes to me talking about Junker Queen a little bit. Like, I love the playstyle of Junker Queen. I love what they've done with, like, Orissa's playstyle. To have these, like, fast playstyle tanks, but then they have the ability to also poke damage and make plays, as well as critical damage on that left click in Omnic form. I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. Like, I'm excited. I'm excited. We'll have to look at some stuff with Ramattra eventually, too. And like I said, we'll definitely have to do an early bingo card. But that just, I cannot wait.